Welcome to the For Creatives podcast, a space built for creatives who are ready to move from idea to execution. I'm Amanda, your host, and here we're all about honest conversation, real insights, and the stories behind the work. Let's dive in. Welcome, and first things first, if you chose yourself this Valentine's Day, I want to give you a big congratulations. Seriously, because I know this time of year can be rough, and having a holiday that's constantly pushing us to seek validation outside of ourselves can leave a lot of us feeling a little depresso without the espresso, if you know what I'm saying. And who can blame us? I mean, we see flowers, dinner dates, this soft life aesthetic on your Instagram feeds. And if you're not a part of it, it's easy to feel like something is missing, like you're part of the problem. You're missing something, like you're alone in it. But listen, you're not alone. I want you to know because I too spent my holiday solo dolo and I really made a point to enjoy it. Enjoy the peace, enjoy the solitude, and embrace it. I'm starting to feel like we give being in our own solitude a bad rap, right? It's almost like, oh, you spent that holiday by yourself, and people feel sorry for you, or it's almost like a punishment in some regards because you're just like, yeah, I didn't do much on Valentine's Day. I was just alone by myself. And I think we need to realize that solitude is not a punishment. It's a power move. It is a time to take for yourself so that you can breathe. You can reflect. You can reconnect with yourself before you try to connect with anyone else. And that is actually what we're going to be getting into today for episode number 2 of the For Creatives podcast. If you're trying to understand how we're going to be getting into this, I'll loop you in. Basically, I've come to the realization that even though we're more connected now than ever, it feels like we're more disconnected. And I've been seeing that in my personal life a lot. If you know me, you know I show up for my people. I talk to the same 50 people every single week. We DM, we send reels, we comment, we react to stories. It feels like I'm keeping up with everyone. I mean, it feels like that. But then I'll run into somebody, one of my top 50 people, and then they are shocked when I mention what's really going on in my personal life. And it hits me that most of my connections only know what I post. And I'm sure the rest of my top 50 assume everything is just like Instagram is making it seem. But that's the problem. We're mistaking our interaction for actual connection. And it's not because we don't care. It's because life be lifing. And I know you know because we're all busy right now. We're tired. Sometimes we just don't have the energy to socialize. And on top of everything else, we're starting to feel burnt out. Scrolling through people's lives is just not the same as actually being a part of their lives. And I've turned my life around in a small way by pivoting once I came to that realization. I've actually made it a point to start visiting my friends and not necessarily penciling people in, but having intentional visits with my friends where we can kind of air out what's been going on in our day to day. Because I know even if we were in a group chat where we were talking every day, it's not necessarily going to make it to the group chat. I've seen that on my social media as well. Like, I had my nails done the other day. My nail girl even told me, I thought you moved. I thought you were living in a van already. I thought because of your reels, this was the life you were living. And I didn't realize she wasn't in the loop. And it's not her fault she's not in the loop. She's just not in the loop because I didn't bring her in. Because that requires actual conversation. It requires one-on-one time, interacting, being intentional with the conversation and the storyline that I'm telling her. So this is where I want to start talking about the difference between like social media and things like maybe a digital community, because I'm trying to create a digital community and I've been trying to find my own community for so long, and along the way I found a lot of dupes for real communities, but they weren't real communities. Just to touch on a few things, at one point I joined the multi-level marketing Monet. I don't know if you guys heard about them, but think like Avon, but like the new generation of Avon. And aside from like really enjoying the products at that time, I really connected with a lot of the girls and I felt like, oh, this is my community. But then that kind of went flat when people started leaving the company or people just weren't interested in selling. And I realized the idea of community when it came to sales was only to gain momentum in your upline's sales, you know? And so that made me a little sad. But I continued looking for additional communities and eventually I joined something that I thought was going to be like this amazing community incubator in Jersey City. And unfortunately, it was run by like a huge con artist, scammer, I don't know what you want to call them, but I learned very quickly that they were doing shady business and overpromising but under-delivering. So I left before that got out of control. But like just the thought of it at that time was, wow, this could be so amazing. This could be so perfect because the people that I would come across, not realizing that we were all being scammed in some aspect, in some way, it would have been great. It would have been amazing. It would have been everything I've ever looked for, but it just wasn't. I mean, honestly, like I could just keep on listing all the different communities that I try to join. And I always found that it was so hard to really engage with people on an authentic level, you know, not just because I said the right things or because I was just pretty enough for that crowd. I wanted to feel like I was actually connecting with people, and unfortunately, I just never came across it. So, a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to create something for creatives, which is where For Creatives came to be, and make something real, make something tangible, make something where community was going to be at the center of everything, right? And back then I didn't know what it was going to evolve into, and so that's kind of how we got here today. So when we talk about the difference between social media and connecting with friends through engaging on our DMs or the reels or the comments, it's not the same as something like a digital community, because with social media, it just gives us access to people's lives by looking from the outside. And a perfect example I can give you is when you walk by those perfectly curated houses during Christmas and you see that perfectly centered tree that's well decorated, has all of the ornaments, has all of the lights, but you're not seeing what's going on inside the house. You just see what they want you to see. And I feel like that's how we need to start understanding how social media is. I mean, I mentioned Instagram, but this is across the board. I see it on Facebook. I see it on TikTok. I see it everywhere. And even when we know it's not real, it still gets in our heads. We continue to scroll, we continue to compare, and we start feeling like we're behind even when we're not behind. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. Social media was never meant to make us feel connected. It was built to keep us scrolling. But real community, that's different. It's not about performances. It's about showing up as your whole self, not just the version that looks good online. And I think that's where I want to uplift a digital community, not just digital, but also in-person meetups. We need to make that happen again. I don't know when it started, maybe COVID. It was probably 2020, but we need to bring it back because this whole everybody keeping tabs on each other through social media, it is not sustainable. I think a lot of us are craving more of that right now, and we want spaces where we can be real, where every moment doesn't have to be curated. So let me ask you, what kind of space do you need? What would make you feel connected? And think about it. And if you're open to sharing, please DM me or comment. Let's talk about it because I promise you're not the only one looking for it. A lot of the solitude that we have kind of taken on for ourselves, where we start to feel like it's only us, has also kind of magnified the burnout. And let's talk about the burnout for a second, because if we're being honest, that's part of why we don't feel connected. We're constantly exhausted. And I'm as guilty as anyone, because tell me why the first thing I do when I wake up is I grab my phone, I go on any one of my social medias and then I get hit with a wave of information, and it's the news, which is super depressing, or it's somebody's cozy core aesthetic, probably sponsored by Home Goods, or it just has me sitting wondering why my life doesn't feel that put together. And the truth is, sometimes I'm just existing instead of actually living. In recent weeks, there have been quite a few wake up calls that I've been noticing in my own personal life. And as I share those experiences and those wake up calls with people close to me and even acquaintances, I'm noticing I'm not the only one going through these, I don't know, epiphany slash wake up calls. There are a lot of things I've been delaying for months. And it's not because I wanted to, but because mentally I've just been burnt out. But what I've realized is I wasn't just putting things off, I was letting them take up all of this space in my mind. And that space I desperately needed. Because how many of us are carrying around unfinished projects, stress, or emotional baggage that's keeping us from being fully present? And if we don't make the space, it just sits there, taking up my energy, making us feel stuck. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that situation in the moment, but that situation is always in my mind. And how can I ever really feel relaxed enough to be present in that moment when I'm constantly thinking about all the other things I have pending? So for me, I've made a decision. I decided to be intentional about clearing this space, both mentally, physically, creatively, because if I don't, I already know how the story is going to end. It's going to be 2026 and nothing has changed. And I just really refuse to let that happen because I cannot mentally be in the same space as I was in 2024 and how I've been going into 2025. So you're probably thinking, all right, so what's the solution then? We're just going to wait it out. We're going to see what happens. Are we supposed to make it happen for ourselves? That's a great question. Actually, it's going to require us to make some changes. And we need to start creating it. We need to start making the connections happen ourselves. We need to start pushing for in-person meetups. I don't care where the meetups are. Can I be so honest with you? We're about to start going into spring before summer hits. So think about this. We have this transitional period between February to April. I think we need to start making public appearances. And we can transition real slow. How about we start meeting up at public libraries? It's free and it's underrated. It has all the resources you could possibly need when it comes to researching, especially creatives. Like, we love to research. We are the ultimate consumers. And sometimes maybe that's really what's overwhelming us, is the overconsumption of like what we should be doing, right? Especially when you're an entrepreneur. Like, you sometimes don't want to pull the trigger on what it is that you're doing because you're not confident in your ability. But I feel like if you're around more like-minded people, you'll realize, hey, you can wing it. Fake it till you make it, baby. The motto is, the Lulu is the Salulu. And I am such a strong advocate for that phrase. The Lulu really is the Salulu. I don't care. Right now, yes, I am in my bedroom. I am recording this episode. It's episode 2. And I just know in my heart that I'm going to have a community. I'm going to have a community who gets what I'm saying. I'm going to have a community who resonates with my words and is inspired to take action in their own personal lives. I know that's happening. I know that I'm going to have resources available to people that they didn't even realize that they could get access to. Or and this is my favorite thing. Like, I'm really a hype girl. I am a supportive queen. And as a supportive queen, I love to hype my friends up, especially my creative friends, but also my smart friends. Like, people just, I just love hyping people up. I feel so inspired when I see people just being amazing on their day to day. And I don't feel like enough people get uplifted by the people that are in their lives. So I just make it a mission to uplift others, because what's the harm in that? It doesn't cost me anything to give encouragement and validate people when I see them doing good, when I see them doing great. I have friends across the board just doing amazing things day in and day out. I had a friend who decided to pick up baking one day. She made a business out of it. She just decided to start making sourdough. Next thing we know, she's selling sourdough every weekend. This is after her 9 to 5 with 2 toddler children. I have friends making stickers and like the cutest little graphic art stickers you've ever seen. I have friends who make patches, gothic soap. The creativity is not limited to those top tier niches. The creativity is endless. And I feel like when you see those people and it's unique and you want to validate them, why not tell them? I hit people up in the DMs every day. Hey, girl. Or hey, guy. Well, I don't say hey, guy, but hey, I saw that post. That's dope. I'm going to repost. Don't mind me. I'm being weird. I'm being a little fangirl right now. And that's just what I do. I also think we need to start doing coffee dates. And I'm not going to tell you which coffee shops to go to, but maybe not the mainstream ones. But also just keep in mind, we're not just talking about chilling. We're actually going to be working. We're going to be talking. We're going to be building together. Maybe we start creating small groups, creative circles, co-working meetups, whatever it looks like. We can make it happen. And if you can see the vision, let me know. Honestly, I'm even willing to go to 80th Street Park in Hudson County and just start barbecuing on a Saturday. I don't care. The community is what's the most important thing. And I think we need to start bringing that up and putting people in positions where they feel empowered to do more. Because right now, all I'm seeing is a lot of paywalls, a lot of people trying to charge up the wazoo when rent prices are out of control, when things are upside down, people are feeling existential dread constantly. And it's like, how can you feel comfortable creating when you feel like somebody's kicking your back in? You can't. People just want to enjoy life, eat fruit, and be alive. Anyways, I just want us to be able to build something together. So if this episode hit home for you, and if you're feeling like you need a space like this, let's talk. Let's actually start figuring out how to bring creatives together. Tell me where you want to meet. I don't even care. What kind of creative support you're looking for, because I'm listening. Because connection starts with intention, and trust me, we're just getting started over here. And with that, I bid you farewell. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that whatever I spoke about resonated with you. And if it didn't, please let me know what it is that you're looking for in a podcast that is for creatives. Have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.